it's been like a success story. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was able to come out of poverty. What can I do to solve this problem? And then I just came up with this idea to write a book.
I saw that you're going to be giving a talk at the American Club.
Yes.
You're going to be giving that on February the 9th.
Yes.
Now, this podcast will be way out before then. So anyone at the American Club, make sure that you go and see him. If you haven't signed up already, sign up to go listen to this talk. It's about bullying. It's the first book. Second, you have 2 or 3 books now?
So it's, actually 3 books, yes.
So he has 3 books out right now. He's going to be talking about that. And it's about bullying. And that's a very, very strong and important topic that we need to talk about worldwide. And I think you're doing a service for so many people.
Right.
So many families don't know how to do it. Where were you born?
So I was born in Toronto, Canada. I grew up in Toronto, and then I decided to move to Japan, I believe, in my 30s.
Okay, but before that, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, so I have 3 sisters.
Okay, where are you in the ranking?
So I'm the oldest.
Oh, so you're number 1, so you're the trailblazer.
Well, yes, I would say I'm the big brother.
Okay.
And
then now you didn't grow up with mom and dad together, though, kind of more like mom only?
Right, so my mom basically raised me, so my father figure would be my grandfather.
Okay.
And
is he still living?
No, he passed away. Such an influence on my life. Mm-hmm. And when he passed away, it really took something out of me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's you, and you have your 2 younger sisters?
3. Yeah.
3 younger sisters.
3
so it's 4 of you.
Yes.
See, when you're growing up in Canada, what was it like? What kind of sports did you like when you were a little kid in elementary school?
My school, we had a lot of sports. We had track and field. We had basketball. We had a lot of a variety of different things. Like I grew up in a low-income area.
Okay.
And my mom was a single mom at the time. Mm-hmm. And that's the way you kind of stay out of trouble, mm-hmm. by playing sports or I did karate, I did judo, I did a variety of different activities to.
You do any ice hockey?
Ice hockey, no. My grandfather really wanted to get me into ice hockey. Uh-huh. So he didn't get us into that, but he got us into football, soccer.
Okay.
But
we say us into football and soccer. Wait.
I mean.
Soccer. So even girls did soccer? I guess they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So my grandfather used to always take us to. He'd always sign us up for the league every spring, and then we would play soccer, and he'd take us to the games. And so basically, he was my father. Okay. Because my father wasn't there, but my grandfather stepped in, and then he was a father to many of us, right?
Wow. So what were the kind of things you really look back on as a child with fondness that you really enjoyed doing?
It wasn't easy growing up in Canada as a Black Canadian.
Okay. Were there a lot of any other Black kids around?
So where we lived in West Hill, in Toronto, the west part, we were the first Black family that.
I've heard something like that too, because what happens is you think it's mixed, but it isn't really as mixed as you think.
Not really. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even though it's low income.
Yeah.
Still, you stand out even more because you're Black, but it's not a stigma on you.
Right.
Am I right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what was it like? Tell me what that's like.
It was. I mean, the thing is that the way that I look at my life, and I look at it's been a success story. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was able to come out of poverty, to go to school. To be a role model for my kids, mm-hmm. To not, because there's a lot of different things around that area that you can get sucked into.
Right. But even as a Black kid?
Even as a Black kid, there's a lot of different things that you could.
But mostly it'd be for the white kids there, right? Or either the French kids or what?
So do you mean?
I mean, when you say, I'm thinking about the negative things. They'd want to have a Black kid get involved because.
No, not necessarily that.
Okay.
It wasn't really that. Where my grandparents grew up, their area was predominantly white.
Okay.
Yeah. Where my mother raised me, That was more like multicultural.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So just to be clear, and in that area where my grandparents have their house, that's like a really good area in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But my mom, because she's a single mother, we didn't have so much funds. I grew up in poverty. Yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
And then,
But did you think of it like that when you were young?
not really. I had a really good time. Yeah.
When did I know? That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You only know what you know. What would you
Right.
compare it to what?
Right.
If you're happy, and you know you're beloved,
Yeah.
what do you, when did you start thinking? Because I remember in my life when I thought, this isn't equal.
Right.
When did you feel that? How old were you? When you start thinking that maybe I'm not doing so well.
Yeah, like sometimes,
How old were you? Do you think you were when that happened?
probably about like 12.
See,
Yeah.
I was older than that.
Okay.
I was maybe 15,
Right.
and I was a competitive gymnast.
Right.
We went to a white school
Right.
called Chatsworth. I'm from LA.
Right.
We went there. That school looked like a college campus. I'd never been to a college campus,
Right.
but I knew it didn't look like it.
Right.
Completely different.
Right.
2 or 3 gyms. Their main gym was bigger than it. It just, I knew. And the kids were driving their cars on campus. The books they had were brand new.
Right.
That's when I felt like something's up here. This is
Right.
not right.
Right.
But you were 12 when you started feeling the difference.
Yeah, like I didn't. I thought. So sometimes, there'd be times when we wouldn't have food or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or I wouldn't be able to get like certain clothes. Yeah. And basically, my mom, she worked. She worked as at a daycare.
Okay.
So she worked, and then I was what's called a latch-key kid. So you'd have like a key, and then your mom would go to work in the morning, and then she'd come back late at night, and then you would prepare something, and then prepare a dinner, and then we would eat together. Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't like, I can't say it was a sad,
That's
but
what
we
you
realized.
knew. That's all you knew.
Yeah, we realized we didn't have. I didn't have everything that everybody else had. Yeah. And sometimes you went without. So like, yeah, those things happen. Like, but then I think of it. If it didn't happen, maybe I would have a different life, and I'm okay now. Yeah.
So when did you realize that were you very academically inclined, or were you more sports inclined?
I was actually pretty good at the academics. Yeah.
What were your subjects that you thought you were pretty good in?
So I really didn't. So I had a teacher in grade 5, and her name was Miss McVean, and she was a tough teacher, and she worked she worked with inner city kids like myself. And then she said to my mom, she's like, this guy's gonna go to university. And my mom was like, really? And she's like, yeah, he's gonna do it. And she also took us, and this is how this is one of the reasons I got interested in Japan. She took us to the Japanese Cultural Center.
5th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. And so all these kids from like the inner city going to this Japanese Cultural Center and learning, it just blew my head off.
Was she Japanese?
No, she was a white lady.
Okay.
She, was Canadian, and her son was into karate. And then she took us to this Japanese Cultural Center, and she taught us like about Japan, and she, was teaching us like how to make sushi and the different sumo. And
Wait, is this one day?
No, this was like we did projects, and she was just teaching us.
Well, how long? I mean, how long of a course was this that you went?
This was like so she's like, okay, we're gonna be studying Japan this term.
So it would be several months?
Several months, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was teaching us, and the highlight was to go to the Cultural Center in Toronto, and I was like, I've never seen anything. You see like the sumo wrestling, and you're like, whoa, what, the Shinkansen, and your mind is like, you're like in a different planet, right? So you're a fifth grader, and there's no YouTube, there's no internet, there's, you know,
Right, right.
there's like books, right? And unless you know, like, to go into this book and to look, and I was just floored. I was like, this is a place I'd like to someday go to.
You thought that then?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I was like, this is I go, there's something special about this place. Yeah. Yeah, because it's just like you see it, it's, you know, yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of the sort of spark. Yeah.
All right, so then what'd you do from that time on? After you left her class, how did your trajectory start from there?
So after I left her class, then I went to middle school, and that was pretty standard. And then I went to school in like around my area. It was violent.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So I saw things at that school that I've never seen before.
And don't want to see again.
And really don't want to see again. Yeah, I really don't want to see again.
Okay, all right.
And it's like I was sitting in math class, and the guy pulled out a gun, and he's like, "Yeah, look what I got." Right?
You're holding it like this. It was a shotgun or
It
something?
was a shotgun. Yeah, and he's like, it's all taped up and stuff, you know.
A sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, you know. And then there was like fights with knives and stuff, and I'm seeing all this stuff, and I witnessed like a knife fight, and it was like really disturbing. I was living with my grandparents at the time, and then I went home, and I told my grandfather, I was like I just saw this knife fight, you know, and then I stopped talking for like 2 weeks.
Literally couldn't say
I
anything.
couldn't talk, you know. My grandfather's like, my grandfather's like more of like a macho kind of guy. You know, he's like old school guy, right? He's like, why aren't you talking? Yeah, mental trauma from this, yeah.
There you go, yeah.
And then like the type of people that I was
But were
around,
these kids black kids that were doing this mostly?
mostly
Pretty much.
black or
Mixed or whatever,
mixed,
yeah.
black Caribbean kids, you know, some like mostly black kids, yeah.
Okay.
Some white kids in the mix. But and then some, like one of my friends would be like, "Hey, do you want to go steal a car?" I'm like, "No, steal a car."
This is
Like,
middle school.
This is in high school.
Oh, in high school. Now you're talking up to high school.
Yeah, we're in high school. And
Okay,
like,
so what were you doing academically then?
I was doing fine. Yeah, I was actually doing I was getting my grades.
What were your favorite classes then?
Science. I liked science. I liked English, math. I was like this because I figured out like the school, or at least the school that I went to. It's like, you know, what's in the textbook, that's what's going to be on the test.
Gotcha.
So you just go in there, you listen to what he says, you write it down, you study that textbook, and then you memorize it, and then you spit that back out. So I knew exactly what they were going to ask and how they, you know, so I knew already, you know, how to study, and so I kind of really got good grades, but sometimes people would make fun of you
For getting good grades.
if we're getting good grades, right? And it's like, when I go home and I don't have good grades, then I have to meet up with my grandfather, my grandmother, right? And, you know, this is not, they would not really be pleased, right?
I hear you.
You know, and you would get a long talk and a very, you know, not a very, so I always try to keep my grades up because I knew that I couldn't bring home bad grades. But you would get, like, from your friends, they'd be like, oh, what are you doing that? You're so, you know, this kind of thinking, right? But I was like, oh, okay, well, which is worse, to deal with my grandfather or you guys? So I know it would be worse, yeah.
So then after high school, then when did you start thinking, okay, now I really have a shot at university?
So I went to high school. So I left because my mom was like, this is not going to be the path or the people that are around you or this area. You're not going to make it. Like, there's too many negative influences, too many negative things. And you might be like, you know, that good student that could try, but it's hard, right? It's like you have a lot of temptations, right? You want to have the nice shoes, you want to have this, you want to have that. So my mom, she moved me out of Toronto sort of like a Fresh Prince thing, yeah. And she moved me 2 hours up into the countryside.
With who?
So she moved with my stepfather.
So your whole family moved.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And then we moved to all white community,
Okay.
population 1,000. Yeah, and then they would bus kids in from different areas, but it was basically like an all white school.
Okay.
So I went there because my mom was like, "We got to get you out of like Toronto. This is not like for you." And so I went there, and then I was the only black kid basically in the school.
What grades were these? 11th?
11. It was like 11 and 12, and then in Canada we have grade 13. I don't think you have that.
No,
in
they have that in Europe.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
In England. In
Yeah,
England, they
okay.
do, yes.
So I did that there.
Right.
I finished off with West Hill, and I was like, okay, deuces, I want to get out of here. And then when I went to the all-white school, at first, like it was like one of the like most nervous days of my life. Like this is like no one looks like you there, right? So I sat down at the guidance counselor. The guidance counselor looked at my report card, and he's like, "Oh, you actually have good grades." Like he was like surprised, right? Because he's like thinking, okay, he's coming from Toronto. Let's see what this guy. He's like, "Oh, okay? We'll put you in the advanced courses." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I was doing those already, and I want to continue with that." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go home, and get prepared for the school day, and then come back tomorrow." And he's like, "No, don't worry about that. We'll start you today." And I'm like, "No, I'll just come back." They go, "No, we're gonna have a big assembly. We're gonna have a big assembly, right?" And the whole, like, he didn't say, like, "We're having a big assembly. You'll get to meet the principal and the teachers, and you don't worry about anything, right?" Right? You don't worry about anything, right? So I'm like, no, I want to come back tomorrow when I'm ready, right? And then he's like, no, we can get you in today. Yeah, we're gonna push this one through, right? So then he's like, he takes me into the auditorium, like this big gym, right? And then the principal's talking. He's like, "Whoa, welcome back to school, everybody." Blah, 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 blah. He's talking. And then the principal looks over. He's like, black guy in there, right? Then the whole place gets quiet. Yeah, okay. The whole place gets quiet, and you're, "What's up? Black guy's over there," right? And I've never felt like, having like 2,000 eyes on you, right? And then when I was like going to my class, there were people like when I walked past people, they would like stop. "Did you see that? That's a black guy. Oh my God." And so no one would talk to me like for a whole month. Like no one would talk to me. Wow. Like no one would talk to me. And then there was one guy, I'm still friends with him to this day. He actually talked to me. And he's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Well, there's actually two guys. One was Lance, and the other one was Blair. Yeah, I still talk to them to this day. And they actually talked to me. And then I made friends there. Yeah. So it was okay, it was okay, but it wasn't, it was interesting because you had to like dispel a lot of stereotypes. Because I had one girl, she's like, "Are you in a gang? Do you have a gun?" I'm like, "No." "Have you been shot? Have you killed someone?" I'm like, "No, I haven't done it. I haven't done none of this stuff," right? But you had to dispel a lot of the myths. And I still talk to many of those people from my high school years to now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they've been very supportive of actually my book.
What did you think about the workload though? Did you find it different from the school you came from? Was it easier, harder, the same?
So I found in the countryside, I mean, it was easier because there was less distractions. Yeah, there's less, like, you can actually study. There's less distractions, and in the inner city sometimes, and this is just this, the pressure on the teacher, because the teacher's seeing all the violence, the teacher's seeing like, you know, and they don't always know the kids. Like in the countryside, they know your family, right? So if you start, you know, doing something wrong, they meet your mother in the in the grocery store, your stepdad, and talk to them, and say, hey, you know, they're doing this, this, and this, right? So it's like a small community. So you really, it was good. It was good for me. Okay. Yeah, because you couldn't like they would, the teachers were more caring, and maybe that's, I wouldn't say they weren't like the city teachers weren't caring. It was just they had more pressure. So I was very thankful to those teachers that I had in that school, and then they've been very supportive actually with my book. From all these I mean, and these are all white people. These are all, you know, like, I mean, they see the work that I'm trying to do with bullying and trying to unite people around a cause.
When you were at the school, were you bullied at that high? But you were probably a big kid too. People didn't necessarily.
Well, I had one incident where,
when you went to this new school,
I had one incident where like they wouldn't do it directly.
Okay.
But I did have like some incidents where, you know, they'd say that word, you know, and then you would say, hey, no, that's not the way things, you know, go down.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'd have to just let them know, because otherwise, you know, they would just keep calling you that, right?
So you pretty much put an end to it real quick.
Yeah, you had to, because otherwise, you know, they would just keep doing it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a different time. Like, I mean, I think at that time there were less like resources for teachers, and the attitude was a lot different. It's like people are like, oh, that's just part of life, you'll get through it. It's, you know, whereas now, like, we have like more emphasis on like mental health, and there's more like awareness of like how this can really affect kids, and yeah.
All right, so you made it through most of that. Well, you made it through all of it. Obviously, you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
College is coming along. How did that, when you started thinking about, now I want to go to college?
My first, when I went to school, I wanted to do like, like a history or something, you know, and more like general, right?
This is once you finished the 13th grade?
Yeah, once I finished, like...
Did you go straight into college from the 13th grade? Or
yeah.
Did you take any, no gaps?
No gaps, no gaps. So I talked to my grandfather, and I was like, I want to study like something more general. And he's like, no. He's like, no, you're not studying anything. You're going to study... he's like, you need to study something where you can do something. Right? He's like... Because he admires like Booker T. Washington. He's like, you know, Du Bois, you know, W. Du Bois. He's like, oh, too theoretical. You need to.
What did he do? What was your grandfather?
My grandfather was actually a scrap metal dealer.
Okay.
And
was it his place, or did he have?
It was his company. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's another story. Yeah.
But he owned his own business.
He owned his own business. He started from like basically a wheelbarrow.
And built it up to how big?
He had like 3 trucks.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he had like his sons like helping out with the business.
How many sons did he have?
So Cecil, Brian.
These are your uncles.
These are my uncles, Brian and Victor. So Cecil and Brian were working there, and then he had some guys like helping out.
Okay. Is your grandfather still alive?
No, he's passed away, unfortunately. Right. Yeah.
Right. What about your uncles?
So my uncles are still there,
okay.
And they also kept me in line too.
Right.
You know, like when my mom, or you know, like they were watching me, and they really helped me.
And I didn't ask, how's your mom? She's still doing
Yeah,
well?
She's still fine.
Okay.
Yeah, she's fine.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah, so I my grandfather, he said, you have to have like something not marketable. He didn't use that word, but he's like, you have to be able to do something. and he said, "Don't be disappointed if you don't get a job because of your skin color." That's what he told me. It was tough.
Wow.
It was rough, but that's what happened to him.
He said that to you?
Yeah.
How old were you when he said that? When he was
Like
saying
19, yeah.
He said, "Don't be disappointed if you don't get a job because of your skin color."
Yeah.
Is he dark skinned too?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So he had your 2 uncles and your mother, or did he have more than 3 kids?
He had 6 kids.
6 kids.
6 kids.
Okay.
Valerie.
All by the same
Yeah.
same grandmother?
Yeah, same.
And
Yeah.
how's is she still around?
She passed away.
She passed away
Yeah.
too, okay.
Yeah.
So these had 6 kids together.
Right.
And your mother's number what?
My mother's the youngest.
The baby.
Yeah.
And then your uncles, the 2 older uncles were the 2 oldest?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
the others fell in between.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you close with all of them?
Pretty much. We're very like close knit family. We really stuck together.
Are you the first to go to university?
I was the first. Yes.
That's why I had that feeling.
Yeah.
So that's why he was so hard on you.
Yeah. He was tough. Yeah. He was tough.
He made sure.
Yeah.
All right. So go on. So
Yeah. So he wasn't playing around, right? He told me he's like and then he allowed me to stay at his place. And then, but there was no, you had to come in at a certain time.
Okay.
And you weren't allowed to like stay out too late, and I was like, I'm 19, yay. He's like, no, you're not like.
Not on my dime.
Yeah. And then he would actually, if I didn't come home, right,
Which you didn't do many times.
Well, not so many times, because
Okay.
he would be like waiting he'd be sitting there in his chair, and he'd come in, and then, you'd be like maybe going to a party or, something, come back, and he's sitting there waiting. He's like, I told you, 12, you're supposed to be in at 12 o'clock or,
Mm-hmm.
and you're late, and you're like, whoa, so I was just like a strict, he was a strict man. Like he was a strict.
I call that love. He loved you.
Yeah,
with all
I
his
mean,
heart.
it wasn't like he wasn't playing around, because he knew.
understand.
Yeah, he knew what. Yeah, he just knew what I was going to face. So he's like, while you're going here, we'll take care of like your food, your housing, everything's going to be taken care of. You just need to focus on studying. Yeah. She's like, you need to focus on studying. So I went in there and I just like studied like hard, like as hard as I could. And then I was a valedictorian.
Oh my.
Yeah, I was yeah. I was like they were like, yeah, we want you to come and do the speech and, get but I really tried my best. Like because I there was no like, there's no backup plan.
When did you see the tears in your grandfather's eyes?
When I got my first job, like he was shocked. Yeah, when I got my first job, like working in industry, and got my first paycheck, and I was like,
How old were you when that happened? How old
I
were
was like 21 or yeah. But I like to get a job, and like, I mean, probably it's easier now, but like what I did back then is I went down to the financial district, and then I put on like a little suit, I bought like $100 suit, nothing special, right? And I had my resumes, and I just went door to door, company to company. Yeah, I was like, I have no, like I was sending the resumes, I was like, oh, this is a waste of time. So I had the company directories, and then I just went into like companies that I thought, needed like technology people. And then I went in there.
Because what did you study? You didn't tell
I studied like computer information systems.
Okay, he got you out of your history.
Yeah,
your
he
history
was
major.
like,
Said no, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
So how did you pick what you're going to go into? Did he sit down with you and say, nope, yes?
Well, like we came up, like my mom was like looking into it, and she's like, oh, there's a school called DeVry, which teaches you like hands-on skills, which teaches you like how to get a job. And so my grandfather was like, okay, that's a good school for you. You're going to learn how to fix a computer. Okay, you're going to need somebody, regardless of your race. You have a broken computer, like you need a guy come in, right? You know what I mean? He's like, the other ones, I don't know because that's like, you know, he's like, but if you can fix a computer, then I know you can, you know, get a job. And so what I did to get the job is that I went like with the suit on, and I just went like company to company. And sometimes they would chase me out of the building. They would go, I'd go in there and they're like, sir, this is not, you know. I was like, no, I have an appointment. They're like, no, you don't. Please leave. And then I would just keep going after company to company. And then finally, I went to one company, and they're like, we're not hiring. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know that. But my name is Kinota Braithwaite. I'm a recent graduate. I'm ready to work. And they're like, yeah, but we're not hiring, right? I'm like, well, you know what? I'm really ready to work. I'm really ready to make an impact. Here's my resume. And I'm pretty sure that they'll be calling me, right? And I'm like, you know, I'm just a young guy. And then, so then they called me, like this company. They called me, this like wireless company. They called me, and then he's like, Kinota Braithwaite. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. I was like so excited, you know, first like call out of all these, and he's like, yeah, we got your resume here. And then I told him, I was like, sir, I was actually came down to your company to see it, you know, and to talk to you in person, and then this is what I'm about, and I came down there, and you know, to talk to you. I'm really excited. And then he said to me, he's like, Kinota Braithwaite, you're the exact man we've been looking for.
What'd you do?
He's like, I want you to come in, right? Because he was like, anyone that goes down there door to door with a resume and sometimes getting chased out of buildings, right? They're like, this is the guy we want. He's alive. Yeah, he's gonna try. So then I went into the company, and then I started working there. Like they hired me immediately. Yeah, he's like, you're the exact man. I remember his words. You're the exact man we've been looking for. That's what the engineering like manager said. He's like, yeah.
So you go home and you tell your grandfather?
Yeah, he was floored. Yeah. Yeah, he was floored. He was like, he's like, are you sure? Like he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it, you know. And I was telling him, yeah, I was in like, because he's never been in an office before. He's a scrap metal, you know, blue collar worker, right? He's never been in an office. Maybe he'd be taking out the scraps, or you know, he never had that kind of. So he was like, and tell me about the office, and what are you guys doing there, and you know, what's this computer thing, and oh, you know, like he was just
wanted to hear.
Yeah, he wanted to hear because he's never experienced it himself. Yeah.
So did you feel one moment when he felt so proud of you? Did you feel that?
Yeah, he was very, like, he wouldn't really say it, but you knew that he was like saying, like when he went to the scrapyard, you know, and he's delivering like he's a garbage man.
I hear you.
Yeah, like, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. No. He fed all his family, you know, he
sent you through school.
Sent me through school, right, off a garbage man's salary. Yeah, and his own business. But when he went down to the yard, like the garbage yard, he would say, yeah, my grandson is going to this university. He was so proud. So, it's good. Yeah, he would always say that, you know. He's like, yeah, that's my grandson, you know. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so he had a good influence on me.
Yeah. How was your grandmother about that?
So my grandmother was actually, she was more on the intellectual side, and she was a writer.
Okay.
And she wrote books about African Canadians. Yeah, and she wrote about her our ancestors. You know, we came from the U.S. and we escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad, and then our family was like one of the first African Canadian settlements in Canada before it was Canada. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
she has that history. Did any of these published?
Yeah, she published like 4 books. One of her most famous one is Some Black Women in Canada.
That was the first one?
The first one, I forget the name, but I remember the most the one that was published. I forget but it was Some Black Women in Canada.
Okay.
And so she published it, and the reason why she published it, because my uncle said there's no black heroes.
Her son.
Yeah, she's like, he came home from school, and he's like, there's no black heroes.
And she said, we're not going to have that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have that. So then she's like, she started writing books, and then she was like the head of like the Black History Society, and I think she was like one of the recognized as like the top 100 important people in Toronto, Canada.
What years of this?
This was the top 100. This was like recently. This was like she was in the top 100, and Drake, you know, like Drake, right? Like Drake was like.
But this is after she's passed.
This was before
alive?
she passed.
Before she passed,
before she was alive, right? Okay. And like Drake, you know, the rapper, was on the list, and then my grandmother was on the list too.
What's your grandmother's name?
Rella Braithwaite. Yeah.
Rella.
Yeah, Rella Braithwaite.
Okay.
Yeah, and then she was like, "Who's this guy Drake? I should be ahead of him, right?" I'm like, no, Drake's like super famous, right? Like I'm like, well, you know. But to me, you're better than Drake, obviously, grandma. But she's like, no, this Drake guy, no, take him off the list. I should be, higher than Drake, right? Yeah, because she didn't know anything, but she was like, who's this Drake guy? Yeah, because Drake was on the list.
This little whippersnapper behind the ears. Yeah.
Yeah, who's he? So she did a lot for like the community, about Black history and like promoting.
So inside, you grew up with a lot of pride and a lot of heritage that you knew you had.
Right. Yeah, I knew that like I had somebody like my grandparents. They really molded me. Yeah, they were strict. I mean, they were strict, but now that I look back at it, I'm thankful that they were. Wow. Yeah.
So after your first job, how did that go? How long did you stay with that company?
So I was there. I actually changed like fields because it was like at the .com time, and then they.
Oh yeah.
Well,
disappeared.
Yeah. Like the bubble.
.com.
Yeah, that, and then.
But it was good while you were there.
Yeah, it was good.
How long were you there?
I was actually only there for about 8 months, and the company went into receivership.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh man, this is like not a good thing, right? So I got to find another job, and quickly. So I found a job because I knew how to like program computers and stuff. So I found a job at this like small like management consulting company. And basically what they would do is that the owners of the company, really smart young guys, right? But they had connections with like Royal Bank of Canada and different like insurance companies. So they would go to these companies, do a pitch, and then say, okay guys, here's the thing, this is what they need, some, system, and then, okay guys, go and program this out. And so we'd sit there and like program all day and night until it would get done. And then I worked there. Yeah.
How long did you work at that company?
I was there for like 3 years. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, just working, and then I looked in the paper, and I saw this thing, teach English in Japan.
Okay.
And I was like,
well, didn't you enjoy the job you had?
I did, but I wanted to. There was this thing inside of me. I wanted to go to Japan.
Was the pay good, do you think, during that time?
Oh, the pay was like, doing
good.
this kind of like, programming computers and, working with, of course, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because like when you finish the project, they give you like a bonus.
Boom, right.
You're like, yay,
right.
Give me another one, and let's get these. You want to get them as fast as possible.
Right.
You want to finish them because so the consulting, basically what they do is that they take young people, and then they work you really hard. It's a consulting business, yeah. So they take the young people, and they really squeeze you, and make you work, right? Mm-hmm. So that you can go on and get another job at some other company, mm-hmm. where you don't have to work like so many hours,
right.
So they know that you're coming out, and then they get you to do all the work, and then it's business, right? I saw this teach English in Japan, and I was like, I'll just I really like Japan, so maybe I'll go there for like 6 months, and I'll just come back. And I went to Japan, and I taught at like a junior high school, And then I was like, oh, I better go back and get some qualifications to, become a teacher. So I got into like Montessori education.
Okay.
And then I worked at the Montessori School of Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. That's where you are now?
Yeah, that's where I am now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all this is recent. I mean, I'm catching you just at the beginning of, you're still going.
Right, I'm still going, yeah.
All right. So you have your two daughters here.
Son and daughter.
A son and daughter, that's
yeah.
right, son and daughter. The son's the oldest.
Right.
Your daughter, Mia,
Yes,
is the youngest.
yes.
Okay. She was being bullied at school. Now we get into this part.
Right, yeah. So, yes, we lived outside. We left Japan after the earthquake, the 2011 total.
2011,
yeah,
yes.
2011, right?
Right.
So we left, and my son was like 3 years of age, 2, 3. And then we went to Yellowknife, then we went to Prague, and then Vienna. We traveled around a bit. And then my wife and we decided to separate, but I was like, okay, I'll come back to Japan to be closer to the kids and to raise them and, to be closer to Kay and Mio. And I was like, maybe they can go to like the international school that I work at, yeah, in Tokyo, and, and she was like, no, I want them to go to Japanese school.
Okay.
And I was like, because I worked in the Japanese school. I knew some of the treatment I've seen, with kids that are slightly different. Yeah. I was like, oh man, they might get bullied. Right. I was really, really worried about that. And I think a lot of parents fear that their child will get bullied. Yeah. Or they have that fear. And I had that fear myself. But she went to school and it was okay for a bit. And then she came back to school and she said, I don't want to go to school anymore.
How old was she?
She was, she's 9 now, so she was like 7 or 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, she's like, I don't want to go to school anymore. And this is a child that like really liked going to school.
But it's a different school she went to? It was a different school that she'd been to before? Or
No, she went to a Japanese school. And
But all of a sudden, wait, there was her first time going to the Japanese school?
so she was in the Japanese school.
Okay.
So she, like, we had her going to the Japanese school. She was going there from the first grade.
Okay.
So which starts in April,
Right.
So everything was going good. Yeah. She was going into like the second grade. Everything is really nice. And then
First grade was okay. Second grade she's going into.
yes. So second grade that she was going into, she's like, I don't want to go to school anymore.
Okay.
And I'm like, why? Like, what's going on? And I kept like pressing her. And she's like, there's some kids making fun of me because of my skin color.
All right.
And I was like my first reaction was like really angry,
You got angry?
Yeah, I got angry. So I was like,
At who? What were you angry at?
like, I'm like, these kids are like calling my daughter names,
Okay. All right.
I was like, I'm just gonna go down to the school
Okay. And do what?
and like have a chat with him, right? And tell
The kids?
yeah, and tell them like, you do this and you're gonna, And I thought, no, that's not the right way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because me going down to Japanese school, no, that's really gonna be a bad idea, right? So I'm like thinking, okay, Mio, why don't you hit them? Just. And I was like, she's like, Dad, I don't want to do that, And there's like 3 of them,
Okay.
and they're boys, right? And I was like, okay, so that's off the table. We can't do that, right? We can't do that. So then I thought, okay, so these are all negative, like, ways of dealing with things, right? And then I thought, okay, if I do the same thing that they're doing, like respond in like violence or respond in this way, I'm not,
Were they touching her? Were they pushing her too? And
I didn't really get into like
all of that.
Yeah, all because it's like so painful to talk to her about
I
it.
hear you.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, we talked to the principal, and this principal was like a good man. Like he dealt with it immediately, which shocked me. because I thought, oh, it's going to be like brush under the carpet. Oh, nothing is wrong, you know, because I hear a lot of those stories. I get a lot of those stories from parents. But he was like, no, this is wrong. He called it the parents. He basically told them off.
Did it stop after that?
So it stopped. Yeah, it stopped. And then I decided to go to the school and deliver a presentation.
Okay.
About bullying.
Okay.
And then, not bullying, but why my skin color is black and racism.
Okay, okay. Now, did you do this in Japanese, or you had a translator?
So I had a translator,
okay,
which was the parent of the child that was bullying me.
And but she didn't know that was happening.
No, she did.
She knew before she was told that her son was bullying him?
So
bullying her?
So the principal talked to her.
Okay.
And said, yeah, that's unacceptable. Yeah. And then the parent apologized.
Okay.
And then I said I was going to go to the school and do this presentation. And the mother of this boy that was bullying, she's like, I'll help you.
She was bilingual. Okay.
Yeah. And so she helped me, right?
That's beautiful.
It was amazing, you know. So the boy could see his own mother there.
That's right. And he knew it wasn't acceptable.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't acceptable, right? Because your mother's there, and then I'm speaking, and so so we did the presentation. And the boy came up to me and he's like, we really liked it. Come back anytime.
The little boy said that to you?
Yeah.
How old was this little boy?
Like
Same age? 9?
Yes, yeah, 8 or 9, yeah. He goes, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, he goes, yeah.
That's good.
He goes, yeah, we
you
really
made a positive impression. See, there you go.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, please come back anytime. And I was like, okay, you know.
So she was good from that time on.
She was good from that time on, right? And then what happened is that I thought to myself, I was like, hey, you know what? This happens this happens too much. Yeah. And that feeling that I had wasn't very good. Yeah. I was like, I can't wish this on anyone. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that feeling of your, you know, bullying and these kind of things on anyone. And then I thought to myself, hey, that's a child, right? And maybe they don't have a good principal. Maybe they don't have a parent or like somebody like me that will go and do these kind of things, right? So what can I do to help the situation? Because I don't want to, I don't want to just be like, yeah, my daughter's okay, and you know,
everything's okay now.
Everything's okay now, right? That's not the case, right? It's not okay. So I thought to myself, okay, what can I do? What can I do to solve this problem? And then I just came up with this idea to write a book, like a children's book, right? And I thought, I was like, oh, no one's going to read this book, you know.
But that didn't matter.
It didn't matter to me, right? It didn't matter to me. It wasn't
that wasn't the purpose.
It wasn't the purpose. It was just to write this book about my daughter's experience, and maybe I could, like, you know, put that in a school and give the teacher some tools and some parents to know what exactly to say in that situation and how to deal with the problem. And so I wrote this book.
And I read it.
Yeah, and you know, I published it, and then people started reading it, and they were like, people emailed me, and they're like telling me like stories about how they were bullied and how this meant a lot to them, and how you're doing great work, and so I was like, okay. I said to my daughter, I was like, I'm going to stop bullying in Japan. Yeah, I'm going to stop bullying in Japan. I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to stop this. And so basically what because I know if somebody reads the book, I think they'll change their heart.
Well, I did read the book. I read it the other night.
Yeah.
Before I knew I was going to be having you on the podcast today.
Yeah.
I know you get emotional about it, but you should, man. It's
Yeah.
a very touching
Yeah.
subject, and it
Yeah.
can be very emotional
Yeah.
for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Your book is very easy to read. Of course, it's for children to be able to
Right.
read,
Yeah.
and anyone that may not know how to read can still be able to get through it.
You're right. Right.
And the pictures, the illustration. Who'd you have illustrate the book for you?
So I found an illustrator through Instagram.
That was really good. I mean,
Yeah.
illustrations. I think the simplicity of the book helps to get the message come through, and you keep it positive.
Yeah.
I could see parts, especially towards the end, where you could have changed a couple of things real quick, and
Right.
you said, "Nah, I think I'll make it come out really nice,"
Right.
and that
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
really worth. The name of the book is Miel,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then you've written 2 more since then.
Right. Yeah.
What
yeah.
are the name? What's the name of the second book?
So the second book is called K, the True Friend.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
In a different perspective. And I wrote that, well, there's 2 reasons why I wrote that. One is that there's students that live outside of Japan, and then they return to Japan.
Right.
And, you know, they have like trouble adjusting, right? So I was like, okay, they might have like trouble adjusting. And I worked at the Montessori School of Tokyo. And there was a student there by the name of William Quinn, yeah? And we kept in contact over the years, yeah? But I always remembered him as a, like I remember this time when another kid was getting bothered in the school, and then William would always be the guy to stand up for everybody, yeah?
Nice.
He really stand up. He was from New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah.
And his parents where they were, you know, New Zealanders. So he was always this kind of guy that would always stand up for people. So I get an email from one of the former parents that I taught, and they're like, William passed away
No way.
at 19.
At 19?
Yeah, yeah.
From what? What happened? Do you
Car
know?
accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a car accident. Yeah.
In New Zealand?
In New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
That must have been hard.
yeah, and this was during like, you know, we couldn't go to
During this was been this past 2 years.
yeah,
then.
past 2 years, right? So I said to his mother, I said, you know, the story will be based on what my son's experience is, but there's going to be some pages put in there as a dedication to your son.
That's beautiful.
And I said, because I want to have this book so that whenever I look at this book, I always have a good memory. So that's why I wrote it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now the third book?
So the third book, that's called Meal's Wish. And that was based on just our experiences living in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had some experiences which are not, I mean, they're not the most positive, but I tried to give parents tools so that they can say something positive to their child when these kind of incidents happened. So for instance, in the book, like this is what happens to me when I'm with my children. Some people call us gaijin.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm from Canada. I'm not Japanese. But my daughter, who has a Japanese passport, who grew up here, who goes to school here, who likes Japan, who likes everything about it, is not a gaijin. You know what I mean? She's not a gaijin. Yeah, she's not a foreigner. And so I write about that. I also write about people that, like when she's with her grandmother, some people are like, is she Japanese? Does she speak Japanese? And so I write about those different like topics that a lot of people of mixed or dual heritages experience in Japan. And so I wanted to write this book in order to have parents or teachers that maybe they have a child that has 2 heritages to be able to deal with these situations. So it's like, it's called Meal's Wish, growing up biracial in Japan, and I wrote the book about like some negative experiences and tried to make it into a positive.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you planning on writing more books?
I plan on writing. I think I'll write like maybe 2 more books, and then I'll focus more on like going out to schools and making online courses, or so that I can spread the word more. But I think like I'd like somebody else to probably, like I'd like other authors or other people to start creating books and resources for about this topic, yeah. And I'd like to maybe like inspire other people to do this kind of thing, yeah, or to at least read the book, yeah. Like to at least like I often ask, I say to people, I give the ebook for free. Okay, so this money is not an issue, yeah. Read the book and then read this to your child, so that we can stop anti-bullying. And sometimes I get, it really makes me happy when somebody takes the book and then goes to a school and reads it to the kids. Yeah, because I'm like, okay, I can't be everywhere, but if they read the book, then maybe a kid will hear that story and be like, hey, you know what we're doing? This is not right. Yeah. So so that's what I'm basically trying to do. I'm trying to like literally like stop this problem. And I think it's like, because I think like I look at Japan, I'm like, there's not so many kids coming up, right? We don't need the ones coming up to have these mental health issues, because like if it's not fixed, then maybe they might take their life, right? Because they've been bullied. So I worry about these things a lot. And when I wake up in the morning, I really worry about like kids that are being bullied. So it really, it bothers me,
I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm trying to do my best. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Kinota, I want to thank you,
Yeah.
because I think ending on that note and with the passion that you show with it,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your time.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Buddy, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All of you watching this podcast, remember to press like, subscribe, never forget, it's all on loan, continue to reach for the stars, and you're too blessed to be stressed.